and I'm going to be restoring these dolls, vintage dolls, Dollhouse dolls, 1/12 scale. And I got these on Etsy, and the seller said they were from the late 1930s, possibly the early 40s, but I'm not so sure about that right now. I'm going to do some more research on these dolls and see exactly when they were produced, if I can find the timeline for them. What I'm doing now is just cleaning off the grime on the faces and other parts of the bodies. They did come with clothes, but the clothes were in very rough shape, so I actually had to cut them off. I saved the clothes to make patterns for new clothes for these dolls. It was a little girl doll, and I've showed her in previous films, but I haven't done her face yet. I did make her a dress, though. What I'm doing is I'm just taking Q-tips, and these have been soaked in a little bit of Castile soap and a couple drops of vinegar, some warm water, and I'm just rubbing off the grime. I did previously carve some of the excess vinyl or whatever the plastic is that they use to make these dolls off the heads and around the arms and legs. And she was pretty dirty. And you can see the grime that's come off of them. It's on the Q-tip. The pencils I'm using are Inktense ink pencils, and I've left a link for these down in the description. I bought them some years ago from Jerry's Artorama, and they still sell them. They're quite expensive, though. They cost about twice as much now as I paid for them. And I'm using a very dark brown color here to go over his eyebrows. And I have some very sharp metal pencil sharpeners that I have to continually sharpen these to get those sharp points. And I'm just going to go around his eyes a little bit. And his mustache. And later on, I will spray these with Mr. Super Clear, which is a fixative. And it doesn't have a shine, and it isn't particularly matte either. It just fixes the pencil so that it can't come off. This pencil that I'm using is actually a very, very black graphite pencil. And I'm going back with the Inktense ink. Derwent, that's the name of the brand. They're made in England. And this is a little marker. It's a white marker, and I'll leave a link to this too. I'm just putting in the whites of the eyes with a very small dot on each side of the pupil. And I'm going to make his lips look a little bit more prominent. And I also did add some blue in the eyes as well. And you can see that pencil off to the right. Now I'm going to paint with various paints. This is Apple Barrel, and I've also used some golden paint. Mostly burnt umber, a little black. And I'm going to go over his hair and his shoes with this color. You can't see that the hair was chipped and worn off, but you can't see it very well here. And his hairline wasn't really where it should be in the back, so I'm just going over that, making it a little better. And these dolls have wires in them, and none of the wires are broken. Oftentimes, when you buy these bendable dolls, the legs and the arms won't bend because the wires have been broken, but these are in pretty good shape. I'm going to put some sideburns on him. Actually, the mold had sideburns, but it was obviously painted very quickly in its original form, and they didn't take time to go through the details. And I'm just following the hair mold. It does look like a sort of 30s hairstyle that men wore, and they would wear these sort of short mustaches. And he's getting close to being done. He's still wet, obviously. And I'm going to do his shoes. These look like slippers, and I didn't really want them to look like slippers. I'll also go over the white socks as well, where they're worn off. And I'm sticking to the same color as the shoe and the hair that was there originally. The first video I made is a short, and I condensed almost 2 hours of film into a 1-minute film for a short. So it might make you dizzy if you watch it, but it will give you the quick version of this. And I'm using a very inexpensive, quick-drying matte paint here. And actually, this paint I bought at a garage sale, but I think you can buy it at Walmart. It's very inexpensive. It's actually pretty good stuff. I think it's Apple Barrel as well. That's the brand name. I'm just going to touch up the shoes a little bit. And the wife, mother, her hair is orange, and so I'm going to change that a little bit. And again, I'm using the Derwent pencil Inktense ink to do the lips. And after this is fixed, it won't come off. This just gives me a lot more control using these ink pencils. I can make the points very sharp. Some of the cheaper watercolor pencils might work, but I found that they crumble when you try to sharpen them to a very fine point. And here's that ink pen with the very fine tip on it, and it's just white. And I said I would leave the link to this as well, because this actually has quite a bit of uses, this particular white ink pen. And her feet have been gnawed off at the ends, it looks like, by maybe a rodent. I don't know, but I'll fix that. And I'm just going to do her eyes. Her eyes are going to be blue as well. They were blue. There's just traces of blue in the pupil. And so I'll redo that as well. There's the blue. I'm just sharpening my pencil right now. Have to do that continually. And again, Derwent. And I'll go over the pupil, and then the iris will be black. And I used this blue on his eyes as well. And this is the black. I'm just going to go in around her eye, upper eye, where the lashes would be, and put a little pupil in there. I'll have to do her eyebrows, and I have a brown for that. And this is the brown color. I can't get that into focus. Inktense is the name of the pencil. And I'll just do her eyebrows, fill them in, straighten them out a bit. And when I'm all done, I will retouch these up, make sure that there isn't any spots that I missed. He actually has a little pair of underwear on, but they're not painted like hers. So later on I'm going to paint their underwear. all white because the dress that the female had on, the underwear actually showed through. It looked kind of weird. So I'm just going to paint them white. And I'm just putting her nostrils in. And it's not quite finished because I haven't done her hair yet. And I'm using golden paint, yellow ochre for the hair. I'll mix a little bit of other colors in as well afterwards to give her hair some body, or look like it has some body to it, texture. I'm actually downstairs doing this right now, and so you may hear some clicking and funny sounds in the background. My dog's barking. We actually heat our home with wood stove, so it isn't as quiet as I'd like it to be. But just to let you know what the sounds are in the background. And I'm just going to go around her hair, let that dry, and then I'll probably put a little bit of other color in there to define the hairline a little bit better. Again, her hair was not painted all the way around with that orange paint. There she is. She's starting to look better. And I'm going to get some more paint out. I need to paint her hair with some defining color further. And I want to do her shoes first though. Her shoes were red, and as I said, they were nicked off at the ends. So I'm just going to paint brown shoes on her. That way, when I make clothes, I don't have to match the shoes if I don't have the appropriate fabric to match red shoes somehow or make them look like they make sense. So brown will be a more neutral choice. When I make these tiny clothes, I always sew them by hand. For me, it's very relaxing, and I have a little more control by hand sewing. And I've steadily been collecting these dolls to populate my dollhouse, my Keystone dollhouse from the 1930s. I have a little boy, I have these two dolls, a little girl, and another family that's newer that was made in the 1990s, 1/12 size. And I also have some bisque ones that are, the heads are bisque and the arms. So I'm just going to paint in her underwear here. Just using the matte white. And it's fast drying, so I'll give this a couple of coats, and I'll clean up the raw edges that I leave on this as well. So there are practical reasons for me painting this white. And I'll put some underwear on him, just because. Looks like originally they had intended on painting the underwear in because they're there in the sculpt. Let's get his arms out of the way. And I'll give these a couple coats too. Oh, somehow a fly got in here. They come in on the wood. It's very aggravating. I have to go around killing flies in the winter. I don't know what happens. I guess they go to sleep in the cold and then somehow they're in the wood and they come in the house and come back to life. You can hear the clicking sound from the heat from the wood burning in the stove. It's very comfortable down here though, so I chose to work down here today. I just brought all my stuff down. I won't do this very often. I just set up the same lighting on the kitchen table. I have this canvas mat that I have laid down. And there's her face. It's not quite finished, but it's getting there. I have some touch-up to do. And his has to have a little touch-up work as well. Well, here's the before. This is what they look like. And here's the after the touching up was done. Well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Bye-bye.